afternoon and welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture. In the series on symbolic expression, in today's discussion, we are going to talk about interpretative sociology. And to translate the lecture into sign language, we have with us Ms. Manisha. So let us try to understand interpretative sociology from the way in which Max Weber has given it to us or contributed to the understanding of interpretative sociology. The first thing that we try to understand when we look into the theory in social science is to understand the way the theory is emphasizing on the individual and the collective. So to go back to positivist science, we know that sociologists were giving significance to the collective. If we look into Durkheim's organic solidarity or even his concept of collective consciousness, the emphasis was on society. But Weber was trying to oppose this, and he was of opinion that the significance should be given to individual behavior. So in interpretative sociology, the meaningfulness of individual behavior is kind of considered significant. Action in sense of subjective understanding of behavior exists only as the behavior of one or more individual. To make it very simple, that any collective exists only when the individual behaves or a number of individuals behave. So collective is basically a group of individuals. So how do we start understanding social reality? Do we start by looking into the individual behavior, or we start from the collective? So interpretative sociology were emphasizing on understanding individual behavior as a step for understanding society. So it is only the individual who is an intelligible executant of meaningful oriented conduct. The society is abstract. So what actually is meaningful is individual. They are able to think. They are able to do the behavior or act out. And therefore, the individual is the unit for study of meaningful behavior. According to Max Weber, social order is constructed from individual's consciousness. That is to say, collective consciousness is a product of individual consciousness, where individual act based on social actors and the meaning for them. So the idea is that Max Weber was arguing that social reality is not given. It's a construct. It's a reality which is constructed. And how is it constructed? It is constructed through the behavior of individual. So it is not fixed. It's not given out there. We need to understand what meaning people are giving to the action in order to make sense of society. So there are many collective concepts which has to be understood in sociology. And how do we understand these collective concepts? Only when we look into it from meaningfully related individual behavior. So when sociologists use the concept such as feudalism, state, class or family, these are all collective concepts. So they acquire a meaning in sociology which is different from that in jurisprudence, law or political science. Why? Because the sociologists are not interested in the institution per se, but in how the people have related themselves to that institution, or how the institution has impacted the behavior of individual. So if we look into the concept of state, the collective concept, it is seen by the political scientist as an autonomous entity with a moral personality of its own. But when a sociologist will look into state, the meaning will change. So the state will then be seen from the subjective experience, the subjective meaning which the state has for the members, and on the basis of which they accept it as a reality, conduct social relationship, and pursue definite activities. So if you are kind of benefited from the state, you will have a positive meaning attached to it. But if the state was not able to fulfill your rights or your desire, you might develop a critique of the state. So the meaning that the state as an institution will have on different people will depend on their individual interaction with the state. And similarly, the concept of nation state. Now, the concept of nation state, its existence depends on the meaningful intention of those who live in such a structure. That is, the way the people or the citizen of the nation would respond back to it. So, social behavior, which are kind of looking into not accepting the nation state as it is, would kind of stand up in a revolt or an opposition movement against it. Now, along with the concept of individual and collective, what is another concept to understand behavior in Weber's theory is the significance given to probability. Social behavior, which Weber termed as communal action, which was the term which he used for Gesellschaft, and is the primary reality to be studied by sociologists. Now, these behavior will include various forms. It is not kind of one particular way in which people are behaving, but they are different encounters, different ways in which we interact with others. Unrepeated encounters, conversation with strangers, or discussion among those attending public meeting. The behavior would differ from context to context. In order to understand social behavior, we need to understand the concept of probability. Now, what is probability? Probability means that on an average, men will orient their action to meaningful precept which may take the form of a law, a custom, a value, or a belief. In simple words, whenever there is a law or a norm or a value, the understanding is that there is a high probability of the average or a large number of members accepting that law or regulation and accordingly shaping their social action. When the probability is there or it exists for the larger population, then there will be order in social structure. That is, the law, norms, regulations are accepted as legitimate by majority of the people. However, if the probability is low, that is, a large population are against the rule or law, then there will be conflict and there will be disorder. So, on the basis of probability, Weber classifies two types of social behavior. First, causally adequate. Causally adequate means that in the past or based on your past experience or on the rules of probability, the subjective meaning can approximately be accessed. So, an action which happened in the past is repeated, there is a chance of coming at a conclusion in terms of the participation of individual on the basis of the probability. That there is a probability that if in the past the behavior was negative, then it could be negative again. So, the assessment can be done on the basis of past experience. The second kind of behavior is meaningfully adequate. So, on the probability correct evaluation of the proper means and ends can be done. Meaningfully adequate means that on the basis of the probability that if the experience was positive and there is a high probability that it is being followed, then the action is meaningful or it is significant for the members. The second, another form of behavior that Weber is talking along with communal behavior is associative behavior. Associative behavior presupposes the existence of rules which the members have laid down or to which they adhere on their own free will. So, in associative behavior, there is an explicit agreement on a set of regulations that define the purpose of organization, its resources and services, its composition. So, associative behavior is basically an setup or a group behavior where there is a set of rules which is already existing, and these rules and regulations lay out the behavior, the services and composition in advance. So, the structure of associative behavior is permanent, though some members may leave and new ones may be admitted, but the exit and entry of new members will not affect the conditions that rules will be accepted. So, this type of structure is the basis for association. So, we know the association for sports, association for political party, trade union, philanthropic group. These are examples of associative behavior. Now, the second type of behavior is behavior based on mutual consent. Now, this structure does not rest on any rule. There is no agreement, status or set of regulation of any kind, but participants act as if they had assumed a definite obligation because they feel that a meaningful relationship exists. So, in such a structure, no rules are binding on the individual, but the individual are following the rules, are following a certain set pattern of behavior. Why? Because they feel they have a meaningful attachment or relationship with it. So, such behavior could be short duration. For example, a man rescuing someone from drowning. So, if in a say a tourist place and a stranger sees another person drowning, there is no set rule for them to behave, but they automatically do it on their own will. It can be permanent structure. So, instance, market economy, racial or national community. In behavior based on mutual consent, there is a kind of a trust, there is a kind of mutual reliability and politeness. The third behavior is institutional behavior. In such structure, the set of rules are explicitly handed down from above, not formulated by the members themselves. So, in associative behavior, the members are formulating the rules, but in institutional behavior, the rules have been created from above, that is individual or prior to the current members. So, it's institutional rules and regulations. It would follow for all institutions coming under the same criteria or category. In this, individuals do not join by free will, but is born into it or becomes a member automatically by education or by other circumstances. So, you have an educational institution. So, you become a member by the fact that you have achieved the specific education required for the particular institution. As a set of rules exist, the members are subject to official coercion. Why official coercion? Because these rules are binding and mandatory. You do not have a free will to accept or reject these rules. This behavior is found in family, political organization such as tribe and state, and religious organizations like church. The fourth behavior is group behavior. the structure to which people adhere without being obliged to do so and without being subject to any explicitly stated or defined rule. So there is no rule and there is no binding on the members on the individual to become a member, but yet you are a part of it. So the group behavior exercises an authority which gives the behavior its meaning. It includes groups like master and his disciple, the prophet and his follower, the charismatic leader and his adherent. So these are types that he is talking about: associative behavior, behavior based on mutual consent, institutional behavior, group behavior. These are ideal types. Now, ideal type is a concept used in Weber's theory to refer to models, construct. In order to understand certain reality, he is giving certain characteristics which need not necessarily be found in reality, but helps us to understand the institution or behavior. So Weber is saying that these behaviors are ideal type and may not be encountered in all their logical purity. So all members in a society are members of all or most of them. So in our everyday social reality, we are members of associative groups, of institutional groups, and also part of behaviors on the basis of consent and group behavior. Now, another concept which is central to Weber's interpretative sociology is reciprocity. According to Weber, social behavior refers to participation in a reciprocally oriented, subjectively meaningful social conduct. Now, what is reciprocity? The reciprocity is you do an action and you will get a reaction to it. So there is a kind of, and this action reaction is more or less having a similar meaning. So for instance, somebody kind of misbehaves with you, the idea is obviously to come back with it. So reciprocity is the basic and characteristic element of Weber theory. Now reciprocity in social behavior may be both positive and negative. So when we see that we are going to greet someone with a smile, so the action from the other side would be a smile. So it's positive. Now this kind of a reciprocity would be found in relationship or behavior with friends and with known people or place or behavior in your own setting. However, there can be a negative reciprocity. That is, you kind of come back with a violent activity or maybe arrogance or a slang language. So this negative reciprocity will be found in situation where there is a struggle or there is a conflict. So when Weber is talking about action, he is not only telling us about the positive, that everything in reality is positive, the way functionalists did. He is also looking into conflict, competition, struggle. So reciprocity may be either based on solidarity. Now solidarity in the sense of having a we feeling or a certain kind of connect with others, or it can also be competition, competitive, or based on conflict. So we look into some of the basic concepts in Weber's theory to understand interpretative sociology. Now some of the concepts that he has used in terms of probability is uses. Uses is the probability that a uniform conduct will persist in a group whose existence is based on habit. So uses is kind of commonsensically that we will kind of have a certain fixed pattern based on a habit on our everyday life. Custom So is something when you repeat the uses over a long period of time. So uses becomes custom when the habit is of long standing and becomes internalized. Now uses and customs are not enforced by coercion from outside. So uses is independent of the external reality. We ourselves kind of automatically or consciously do certain behavior, and it is part of a practical advantage. Next concept is convention and law. So the typical form of legitimate authority. Now Weber also talks about power and authority, which we can discuss in later lectures. But here we know that when he talks about legitimate authority, it is authority which is coming from state apparatus, which is accepted by the people, and it is kind of considered to consist of conventions and law. Conventions means that uniformity of conduct is guaranteed by the probability that individual who depart or violate will meet with a general disapproval within their group. So convention means that it is an legitimate way of behaving, and if an individual does not behave in this manner, then he or she will be punished for it. Law means the validity of authority is based on its coming from a legitimate body set up for the purpose of exerting coercion, and violators of the rules would be punished. Now when we look into law, it becomes more authority based, because this comes from a legitimate body, and this body or institution is set up for the purpose of exercising coercion. So any deviance from or any action that breaks the law will call for punishment. So unlike custom, convention presupposes from the group in the form of possible damage to one's reputation. And unlike law, convention is not exercised through a special apparatus. Conventions involves formal coercion by the group, whereas law employs physical or institutional coercion. The characteristic element of law is the existence of an official organ of coercion. So the law is actually physical coercion by the state or by the institution set up for that purpose. So we kind of look into his understanding of interpretative sociology by looking at the emphasis on social action and behavior. So action is kind of anything which actor gives subjective meaning to it. So with this we come to an end of today's lecture. Thank you.